Alright, we've got a new job here. I have a series of 13 horses, 8 of which are here. The others don't have any broken legs. The legs are not broken off. They've been broken and repaired, sort of like this one. So all they need is paint and some fills or something. These ones I need to make copies of some of the legs to replace. Like these are all missing. I don't have the parts. And some of them are missing, like this one, there's a section missing between the bottom part of the leg and the part on the horse. So I have separate poses here. They're specific to certain horses. And so I've found a horse with a matching pose. I've marked the leg I need to make a copy of that is unbroken, because I don't want to try to mold a leg that's been repaired, because it's possible I could break that getting the mold off. So I'm going to use a leg that's not broken, make a mold. This leg here will replace that one. All right, and some of these other legs will be coming from a different horse. I can use this leg to replace that one, etc. So I've marked all the horses. This leg will replace this one. This leg over here is going to replace that one, etc., etc. So I've matched all these up. So I'm not going to film the repair of each horse. I'm going to pick one of them and we'll do a repair of it, and you'll just know that that same process is going to apply to all the rest of the horses I have to make parts for. So now we need to make some molds. This is the molding product I'm going to use to make my mold for these horse legs. And this is a 2-part mix by hand, quick silicone mold. It doesn't need a mold release or anything like that. And these dates you see on here, I usually date it when I buy it, and I also date it when I open it, because that way I know how fresh it is when I get around to using it. So this is what the product looks like. It's a purple stuff and some white stuff, and you mix them both together. It's very important when you're mixing epoxies, all of them, especially if, things where you mix them with your hands or you mix them with a tool. It's very important to not cross-contaminate these. So I just took a little bit out of this purple thing, and you really need to clean your tools and your hands, because you're going to be touching these containers, and if you cross-contaminate them, you'll spoil the whole package, and it'll ruin your epoxy, and you'll have to buy more. So be real careful and be very clean with your mixing. Alright, so here are my 2 equal amounts of this epoxy, and this stuff you can mix by hand best. So essentially you're going to mix that until you don't see streaks in it anymore. Nice even color. It's really easy to do with this. The contrast is very good. So when you flatten it out, you shouldn't see any streaks in it anywhere. So that's thoroughly mixed. So I've made it roughly the shape I need to get on here. And so I'm going to make a mold of slightly more leg than I need. It's easier to make it fit that way. It's important to get it to fit around here as snugly as possible. Because you can't go all the way around it. Hopefully there's enough rounding on this side that if I just fill this correctly, I can still get a good mold out of that. So now I'm going to do what you just saw on all the other legs that I need to make copies of. Okay. All right, so it's the next day. My mold material has cured, and I'm ready to take it off. So what we're going to do here is I'm making a mold from this horse. We're going to use this horse to replace this leg, and we're going to use this horse to replace this leg. So I'll take these off. Oh, I also wanted to talk about the reason I made this mold the way it is. It's so easy to break these legs off trying to get this mold off. And if I did one that surrounded it, I would have to cut a line through the mold to the leg all the way. And the pressure of doing that with an X-Acto knife, you're just asking for trouble. That's probably going to break this. So what I decided to do is wrap this, maybe 3/4 of the way around it. And if you see what this side of this leg looks like that's exposed, is I think I can just shape that somewhat when I fill this, and or just round it off once I take the leg out of the mold. Also, what I'm trying to do is I want to make a mold that's bigger than what I need, like, in other words, a longer leg than I need. And the reason for that is so that I can shape the leg to the right length, the correct length to fit where it's going to go. In fact, I want it to be a little bit shorter than where it's going to go, because I'm going to use the same epoxy that I'm casting into the mold is going to be the adhesive to glue the leg that I make onto the horse I'm fixing. So epoxy likes to have a little bit of space instead of a tight fit, because it makes it a stronger joint. So that's the plan. We'll see. So for now, we need to take these molds off, and also it sticks a little bit, not a lot, but just enough that I have to be very careful not to break my leg off. So there's my mold of this leg. And this is very, very flexible, see. Now when I try to fill this with a material that might be this stiff or stiffer, it could distort this leg in some way that's unnatural, and then it'll cure that in that position, and then it won't be a replacement, it'll be a different leg. So what I might have to do is embed this mold into something stiff like a bed of plaster, where I'll just press this into fresh plaster and let that harden. And then when I pack this, it won't bend and twist and distort when I try to fill it. Also, I want to point out that the legs I marked, you saw me mark yesterday, like this one right here, that's just a Sharpie pen, comes right off. I mean, you could probably just wipe it off with my fingernail. It's in where I can't reach it. So anyway, wipes right off with alcohol. And so I don't need that reference anymore. All right, this is the product I'm using to fill these molds with. It's called A+B putty. Look down below in the description for links to this. Okay, so I'm getting ready to fill these molds, and I've made my mold right on the leg. I used a different horse to get this mold. It's this leg. So that's how I made this mold. So I'm marking this mold now with this magic marker. This is where I need to, this is where my leg is going to come to. And when I fill this, I'm going to leave a small gap here. And the reason for that is because if I were to just fill this mold with my epoxy putty and attach it to the leg, then when I take this mold off, I'm going to have a lot of flashing and shaping, to cut off here, grind off and file down. and there will be some shaping involved with that. And when I'm filing on way out here on the end of this, there's a risk of it putting a strain on this connection. There's a tiny little circle here. I mean, that's about 1/8 of an inch diameter circle. That's all this we're grabbing by. So what I'm going to do is fill this mold up to here. Once it's hard, I take the contents out of the mold and I do all my filing and shaping to that piece. I put it back in the mold and I put in some fresh epoxy putty in here to connect them, weld it back together, and now when this gets hard and I take it out of the mold, I only have to work on a tiny little section right where it's connected, and I'm not putting any strain out here. So that's the idea with that. Now, that's the plan. On this mold, as you can see, I pretty much need the whole leg. So again, I'm going to do the same thing because there's so much leg out here to work on. It will still put strain on here, even though I have a much more surface area to which the epoxy can adhere. So that's the plan. All right, I'm getting ready to fill my molds, and I have water here to keep the epoxy from sticking to my tools. And so we'll take a little bit. It's important to work it into the mold. I don't want to get too much water on it where the next piece is going to connect. Because the water makes it a little less sticky, and I need it to be sticky. Okay. So I've overfilled it, and that will give me an opportunity to shape this side that's rising up out of the mold. And now I'll fill the other one. I have my mark I have to fill up to this line. All right, so I've taken one of the larger legs that I have on in my molds because you can't see me working on the ones that are smaller because my hands are in the way and not enough of it will show to be able to get the camera access to it. So I got one of the larger ones so I could work on it so you could see what it looks like. And now it's hard, so I pop it out of the mold, the flexible mold, and it just comes out. And the other side, there's the part that was in the mold, is a pretty good looking leg. And so we have this flashing on here that has to come off. And so before I start working on it with my files, I'll just take my Dremel. This is a diamond bit. I have a foot-powered pedal for this. And so I'll kind of just rough out this flashing so I can save myself some filing when I get in here with my files. So it goes like this.
Okay.
Okay, well that's a general roughing down of it, and we'll attack it with files from here out. So now I'm going to begin filing on my molded legs, and I'm using these diamond files. What I like about them is that unlike ordinary files, with ordinary files you can only file in one direction. With these you can file in any direction, push, pull, sideways, whatever. They work great. So I'm going to be using these three to do my work on these hooves. So I like to work on the edge here because then I can get in the position with my file that I couldn't if I was working in the middle of this table.
So, it's a matter of shaping this.
So now you can see as I'm working on the end of this foot why I am working on it unattached to the horse, because the strain of the filing on this out at the end of this foot could very easily break it off. And plus the difficulty of working around it at all these angles while it's attached to the horse. It's just much easier to do and faster if I do it disconnected from the horse. And this file here, this is the only file in the set that has a round shank on it. And they made this loop on here for some reason. I don't know why. But it does come in handy. I wish it was a point, because I would like to be able to use that little thing sometimes without using it on the curve. But still, it's useful anyway. And like I said, what I love about these is I can file in any direction with them. I couldn't do this with a normal file. And these are not some expensive files either. I get them at Harbor Freight. They're actually very inexpensive. And I go through a couple sets of them a year. So let's see what we have here. This is we've got a pretty good shape there. It's very close. So now what I'm going to do is use another set of files to finish this off. And I get these files also from Harbor Freight. So it's a set like this. There's about a dozen in a set. I go through about one or two of these sets a year, and because I'm working on porcelain and ceramics, it beats the heck out of these things, and they wear out. But I save them. I mark them and I save them. Now here's an old one I have, where this file is almost smooth, but it still has enough bite that it can file. It's sort of like a fine file now. And so I'm going to use that to finish up this hoof. So I'm going to go over this part I just did with the diamond files. And you can see as I file that fuzzy sanded looking stuff off, this almost polishes it. Because it'd be really difficult to sand this foot. It's so tiny that it's just difficult to even use sandpaper on it. And I can't get the sandpaper down in the little nooks and crannies like I can with a file. I'm not shaping anything here. I'm just smoothing out this finish. And I'm going to use a needle nose pliers to hold on to this where I can't get my little fingers in there. I'm ready to fill these molds to connect these pieces. And I've made my piece in here. I've taken it out. I've reshaped it. Did all my filing and stuff. And I put it back in the mold so that we can reattach it. And this will hold it in the correct orientation that I need. Let me pick it up here without moving it. And I'll hold it in the correct orientation for that foot to cure in the right position. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. First thing I'm going to do is take this off of here and add some A plus B to this stump, because I want to get it good and smushed on there so that I have good contact. I know that it's not just touching it. I've got good secure adhesion to that. And there will be extra, and then I'll put this back on here and smush the two pieces together, and the squeeze out will come out, and we'll let it harden that way. And then all I'll have to do is file around that connection. And we won't have to work on any of this out here where I'm filing and liable to break that because of the stress I'm putting on it. So that's the plan. Okay, so I want to get this, make sure I get it good and stuck on there. Oops. And you really need to push this down all the way around, because I've found that just touching it up against there isn't good enough. You really need to press the two together. And now I'm going to do the same on this other end. Go ahead and take it out of there. And hopefully that'll be enough. Okay, now, and now we'll squeeze the two together. Okay, now I'll set that on a shelf. This is the next horse I need to do, and as you can see, there's the space I need to fill to hook these two together. So, and this one, I don't have, this is not really attached real well. This will fall off if I don't. So I'm gonna, when I'm done, I'm gonna park this on a tiny bean bag, and it'll hold this in place so I don't have to tape this. Okay, so in the meantime, I will get my A plus B putty on here, and I want to press it into this well. In fact, I'm going to take it out of here. I don't want to break it. There we go. So I need to see how that won't just stick if you just shove it in there. You just I need to get this attached very solidly. No spaces under it. So there's that. Oops. Now, put that back in the mold. And add a little to the stump. And the same thing here. We want to get it nice and solidly adhered. And then I'll add a little bit more to the top of that. I have a bit of a gap in there to fill. And press them together. And now hold that with my finger behind it and smooth this bead. Okay, so now I need to park this and let it cure. It's the next day and the A plus B has cured, taking the molds off, and that's what it looks like. So I'll get to that in a minute. Let's see if we can take this one off without breaking the leg off. Okay. And there's that. So we just need to file those. So I wanted to show you that one of the reasons I really wanted to do this within the mold. You see how this stands? It's perfect. It's not tilting one way or the other, and that's the way to do that. So I took a mold off of one of these other legs, and if you fill that mold and you put it on there, it has to be the right length. So that's the reason we do that, and it came out great. And this is what I'm using to shape the milliput fill that I just did. These are diamond files, and what I love about them is that you can file in any direction with them. With a normal file, you have to file in one direction only, but with these I can file anyway because there's no grain to there's no teeth. It's like sandpaper. The thing you need to be careful of with these is that it will scratch porcelain and other ceramics, and it'll mess up the glaze. But since I'm going to have to repaint this area where I'm working anyway, it's not going to make that much of a difference. If a millimeter of where this connects is abraded with this, it's not going to matter. So we just need to start gently filing this. Okay. That's pretty good there. Here's my foot. Okay. And there's the second one. Now, I only have about, what, 8 or 10 more? Well, here's my little herd of horses, and I've gotten all the legs either put back together or replaced where they were missing. There are a total of 13 horses here. So we'll give you a look at these. These had broken legs, but none were missing. There's one with a replaced missing leg. And there's one draft horse in here. This one just had a little bit of a chip on its ear. And these also had some broken legs. You can see where the milliput is on the cracks. And this one had 3 missing legs. And then the white series. So I've mixed the color for my touch up on these horses, and I'm using Golden's brand Titan Buff and Shading Gray mixed together, and also some titanium white to get that color. And so, wipe it off my hands so I don't get it on the horse. Okay. So, this is where we got to take a couple of coats to cover. We have a dark substrate here. That'll need a couple of coats. So, and I will park it in my sandbox to dry. There's the other. Also exposes any problems I need to address here. I've got a couple of bumps on here I need to sand off, and a little bit of fill. I'll do that before I do the second coat. And before I park it, cleaner on a Q-tip, wipe off the overspray. Okay, so I'm going to do the final stages of these horse paintings, and I'm using this color, Golden's Shading Gray. So I'm going to do the gold on the hooves on these horses, and I'm using this Sylmasta brand gold paint. It's this is called the pale gold. This is a solvent-based gold. And there's one. And here's our herd of horses all finished, completely repaired. Let's get you a nice look at these. And these are the two that we showed in the video. All of these had missing or broken legs.